What if I told you that recent images from NASA could be showing something straight from the Bible? Not a story, not symbolism, but something real. Powerful telescopes have captured strange formations in space that closely match how biblical angels are described. Beings of fire covered in eyes mentioned by prophets thousands of years ago. What if those ancient visions were real? And if so, does this mean they've returned? When people first saw these images, most of them weren't shocked at all. They thought it was just another space photo, another dying star, another nebula forming as a sun released its last energy into space. But when you slow down and really examine this image, things start to feel different. This doesn't look like random gas and dust floating without meaning. It looks shaped, organized, almost intentional. Many people notice the same thing right away. It looks like a massive eye staring straight back at us from deep space. Take a closer look and tell me what you think it is in the comments below. Because the resemblance is uncomfortable, especially when you remember that the Bible describes heavenly beings that look very similar. In the Book of Ezekiel, the prophet writes about strange beings he saw in the heavens. He describes wheels within wheels, covered in countless eyes. These beings moved in every direction, yet they never turned as they moved. They were guided by the Spirit of God. Ezekiel did not say these were dreams or symbols. He said they were living creatures, powerful beings near the throne of God, creatures so strange and overwhelming that human language could barely describe them. Now, thousands of years later, with modern telescopes and advanced technology, we are seeing something that feels strangely familiar. Huge shapes in space that look like an all-seeing eye, glowing in the darkness. Scientists say it's just the remains of a star, but even they admit the shape and balance of the Helix Nebula is unusual. Space is supposed to be chaotic, messy, unplanned, but this looks ordered, almost designed. Science can explain how stars collapse and how gases spread through space, but it struggles to explain why these images match descriptions written thousands of years ago in ancient scripture. For a long time, people believed Ezekiel was speaking in metaphors, that he was using symbolic language to explain something too great for humans to understand. But what if it wasn't symbolic at all? What if Ezekiel was simply describing exactly what he saw? A being so massive and so strange that the sky itself revealed its shape. What if what NASA is seeing today isn't just a space object, but a reflection of those same beings? Here's where the thought becomes unsettling. According to the Bible, these beings were not still. They moved with purpose. They traveled wherever the Spirit led them. So if that's true, what does it mean that in our time, humanity is once again seeing shapes like this through science? Are these just stars dying in space? Or could they be signs, warnings, or even the return of the same beings Ezekiel saw more than 2,000 years ago? When most people think about angels, they imagine human-like figures with wings, white robes, and peaceful faces. But the beings described in the Book of Ezekiel are nothing like that. These angels are called the Ophanim, and they are very different from anything people usually picture. The Bible describes them as wheels within wheels, massive and alive, covered completely in eyes. They do not walk. They do not fly like birds. They move in ways that don't follow normal rules. Wherever they go, they move perfectly without turning, without stopping, as if every direction is the same to them. Ezekiel said these beings moved exactly where the Spirit of God led them. They never acted on their own. They never hesitated. Imagine giant glowing wheels spinning endlessly, filled with eyes that see everything at once, watching every direction, missing nothing. These beings were not shown to Ezekiel for decoration or symbolism. They had a purpose. The Ophanim are described as guardians of God's throne. They stand among the highest beings in heaven, closer to God's presence than almost any other angel. Their power is not like angels who deliver messages or protect people. The Ophanim represent order, control, movement. They exist to carry out God's will without question. Ancient Jewish teachers believed that seeing them fully could overwhelm a human mind, because no person could handle the sight of countless eyes staring back at them all at once. That may be why the Ophanim are rarely mentioned. Even in Scripture, they appear briefly, as if their description was too much for words. But every time they are mentioned, one thing is clear. They are powerful, strange, and nothing like the angels people imagine today. So if something in space truly looks like the Ophanim, this would not be a small discovery. It wouldn't just be a strange image. It would be one of the most serious signs imaginable. These beings do not come to Earth to speak to humans. They remain near God's throne, helping carry out His order across creation. That's why images like these stay in people's minds. They raise a disturbing question. What if these beings were never just ancient visions? What if they have always been there watching? There is something else about the Ophanim that most people don't talk about. In ancient Jewish writings, these beings were not only guardians, they were also described as carriers, movers. They were connected directly to the throne of God itself. Some ancient teachers believed the Ophanim were not just living beings, but living structures, moving forms that carried God's presence wherever He willed. This is why Ezekiel described wheels within wheels, not wings, not bodies like humans, but massive rotating forms that move perfectly together. When Ezekiel tried to explain what he saw, he used the only words he had: wheels, fire, eyes, light. To someone living thousands of years ago, that was the closest way to describe something so advanced and unfamiliar. But when we read it today, in an age of machines, engines, and spacecraft, the description feels very different. It almost sounds like a design, something built to move between heaven and earth, something alive but also structured. Ezekiel said these wheels moved with lightning speed. They stopped instantly. They changed direction without turning. They followed commands, not physical laws. Wherever the Spirit went, they followed. Now think about modern reports of strange objects in the sky. Glowing shapes, circular forms, objects that move without sound. That stopped suddenly. That changed direction in ways no human aircraft can. Many people call them UFO. Scientists say they are unknown objects, drones, or natural events. But the movements often don't match anything we know how to build. So here's the question people are starting to ask. What if these reports are not new at all? What if humanity has seen them before, long ago, and simply described them differently? What if the wheels within wheels Ezekiel wrote about were never meant to look like the angels we paint today? What if they were living, moving forms that carried God's presence across realms? If that's true, then the Ophanim were not just symbols of faith. They were part of a moving system, a living order, something active, powerful, and still at work. And if modern technology is now beginning to catch shapes like these in space and in the skies, it raises one final, unsettling thought. What if they never left? If all of this is true, then heaven is not a distant place that only exists in stories. It is active, moving, working. The Bible never describes heaven as silent or still. It describes motion, order, and purpose. The Ophanim were not created to visit Earth or deliver messages. They were created to surround the throne of God, to move with it, to carry out His will across creation. They represent control, balance, and judgment on a scale far beyond human understanding. So if shapes like these are being seen in space today, it may not mean that something new has appeared. It may mean that humanity is finally able to see what was always there. For thousands of years, people laughed at Ezekiel's vision. They called it imagination, metaphor, poetry. But now with modern technology, we are seeing things that look uncomfortably close to what he described. What if science is not proving the Bible wrong, but slowly catching up to it? What if those ancient prophets were not guessing, but witnessing? And what if these beings are not watching us for the first time? What if they have always been watching? If that thought makes you uncomfortable, you're not alone. Because if the Ophanim are real, then heaven is real. And if heaven is real, then so is judgment, purpose, and order beyond this world. So the question is no longer whether these images are just space objects. The real question is this: are we looking at dying stars, or are we catching a glimpse of something far greater?